Welcome back to the Whispers from the Shadow podcast. I'm Stupid Jimmy.
I'm Miss Pleasure.
I hope all of you are having a better time than we are, because we've had quite a few technical difficulties over the past couple of hours that we've been chit-chatting and before we even started the podcast.
It's been fun after fun.
Oh, so much fun. So today what we're going to be doing is we're going to be comparing, kind of doing a compare and contrast between horror genres. This kind of came up in just conversation between me and Miz, and I liked this concept of it.
Yeah, comparing and seeing like what movies and like categories kind of get shifted in together, and when you can see certain differences between them, like you can see like key characteristics or like a very big pivotal point that like directs them differently. Like we have like your haunted houses, psychological, paranormal, and then you also have like your possessions. Lots of different things that like kind of get lumped in together, unfortunately, and each one stands on their own.
Oh yeah, I completely agree, because like I feel like the main three that get lumped together are supernatural, paranormal, and your haunted houses, which leads me to ask, to anyone listening, stuff like that, what ones do you consider very similar? Which ones do you consider the same? Which ones do you consider like drastically different? Please feel free to let us know, because I feel like the big three for me personally that I sometimes confuse and sometimes are like, oh yeah, these are totally different, are your supernatural, your paranormal, and of course the haunted houses, because I think there's a difference between Insidious and The Conjuring, as I said earlier.
Yeah, and then like I said, my boy James Wan right there, gotta love him. There are two different things, because you have like the possession of The Conjuring, and well, it's actually technically like as the possession, but it's also like a haunted house almost, because the witch killed herself in the tree, and so the tree is therefore making the whole land bad and attaching that entity to them. So like it's a possession more than anything, but you can lump it into like that haunted house category or that paranormal.
Yeah, I think that's a lot of the genres can be like mixed matched and combined and stuff like that. Like you could have a paranormal or a supernatural haunted house, or a supernatural paranormal in this instance. But I feel like there is some drastic differences, but I see where there's like some similarities, because you could have your supernatural where it's werewolves, vampires, folklore,
zombies,
and then also include like some paranormal aspect into that with like your.
You can use like Evil Dead with the Necronomicon.
Yeah, exactly. Like, because I mean, technically they weren't zombies, but they were some form of undead creature. So I mean, would you
ghouls? You can call them up as anything, demons. Yeah. All kinds of things. I mean, hell, you can even use like Demon Knight as another one with Billy Zane.
I mean, I mean, yeah, because that was a good one.
Fucking love Demon Knight. It's such a good movie.
Such a great movie.
I personally lump that one with religious horror.
I could see that, but I mean, with it being Tales from the Crypt, I would also consider it kind of a paranormal creature feature-esque.
You could, yeah.
Because I mean, this was like that came out like right at the height of Tales from the Crypt, when everything was like, booming. It's like that TV show that gets that movie that you're like, this shows that it's a good TV show. Because like South Park had one, Aqua Teen Hunger Force had one, hell, Simpsons have had one. Yep. I think that like a lot of the stories from Tales from the Crypt, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps, a lot of them were one of these genres. So I feel like at one time they covered all of them.
Yeah, and I mean, you also have your artists, or your authors, I mean. Not your artists, your authors, like King and Dean Koontz, Poe. They have a lot of like similarities in that sense as well. And they also have done like supernatural, actual monsters, so on and so forth, or werewolves, or whatever.
Like you have, what's a good one? Like psychological would be like Poe. Like we're not officially talking about literature, but this is like a good example. Yeah. Like you have like your It from King, and then you have your The Fall of the House of Usher from Poe, where I think that was the one where the pendulum was like slowly lowering to the guy, and he was like
the pendulum. Well, yeah.
Pit in the Pendulum, not Fall of the House Usher. I'm sorry. Yeah. Where like the pendulum was like slowly lowering down to him up to like the last second, and then you don't know if it killed him, if it missed, if he got out.
Or the fucking 8th grade English teacher's like, now what was the meaning of that?
A guy getting cut in half? I don't know.
But like I feel like one that I usually get like supernatural. When I think of supernatural, sometimes I almost think of like entity connections, almost like Stir of Echoes, if that makes sense. But I also know that's more like a psychological as well.
I would consider that one more of a paranormal psychological.
Yeah, I can see that one. Like it's because again, it's like very haunted ghost of dead girl wanting to like find and like her killers and everything like that, and like Kevin Bacon's character like really trying to piece together this puzzle.
Yeah, like he doesn't know if he's going crazy and what he's seeing is real or fake until he like starts putting pieces of the puzzle together, and he's like,
yeah, and that's why it's like it's very paranormal, but it's also like very psychological. And like that's one of those where you can put them together, but it's like super hard to like just which one isn't more of the other, because it does a very good well of balancing both.
Yeah, I consider that one to be a very good psychological movie altogether. Okay, well, yeah, I would consider that one to be a very good psychological movie altogether, because it was like very like, is he going crazy? Is this really happening? And then like by the end of the movie, you're kind of like, oh, this is good. And then like spoiler warning for anybody that hasn't seen this 20-year-old movie.
I think it's like 30 almost.
Yeah, it came out in the early 2000s.
I thought it was fucking like 97. My bad. I don't remember when that movie came out off the top of my head. I'm gonna fucking look that up now. That's got me worried.
Same. Let's see.
99. Oh my god, I was close.
So it is almost 30. So like, but yeah, like I consider that one to be very good psychological altogether, because it's like at the end of it, after he figures out what happened to the girl and he figures out who the killers are, he looks across the street and he sees another person just staring at him. Car passes by, person vanishes, and then they don't let you know if there's going to be a part 2 or anything like that, because the Stir of Echoes part 2 that came out didn't have Kevin Bacon in it, and I don't think it was even with the same writer.
I was going to say, that's one of the things I do hate. Like, I'm very disappointed right now. There's going to be a Black Phone 2, and I'm very disappointed.
Yeah.
And because the first one is done so well. And right now that team is on my shit list, because they've done great first installations and so far one very shitty sequel, which I love. I love Shudder. Yeah, Shudder. That's the one with Bagul, right?
Where the girl's sitting on his shoulders, and every time he takes like a picture of himself, she's there.
No. Fuck, what the hell is the one I'm talking about then? It's the one with Ethan Hawke with Bagul, the one that has the kids kill the family.
Oh,
I'm trying to blank on that. Why am I drawing a blank on that? Because it's the same team that did Black Phone. Why the fuck am I trying to blank on this?
Yeah.
It's Sinister. Well, I don't know why I say Shudder. I don't know. Sorry. Sinister. Sinister is a great first installation. Black Phone's a great installation. Sinister 2 was horrible. So I'm already like discounting Black Phone 2. And that's one like I feel is very paranormal and psychological as well.
Yeah. Like I think that the Sinister 1, going off of that one, I think that one was very psychological and very paranormal, because
of Bagul himself.
Yeah.
It's also possession. That's like one of all three, actually, if you really think about it.
Yeah. Because I mean, honestly, the whole spoiler warning for however old that movie is, if you haven't seen it,
that one's like 07.
I think so. But yeah, if you haven't seen it yet, you're missing out. It's a great movie either way. But
yeah, and don't see the sequel. Do yourself a favor. Do not see the sequel. It is so bad. Well, okay. Let me rephrase that. I think it's bad. I've heard people enjoy it, but I think compared first to second one, it's like super weak. The first one's done so well.
I would actually agree, because I like to see my favorite horror movies get sequels, but when they're done poorly, I don't like it. Personally.
See, that's one of those things. Like you can leave it on either that like very depressing, bleak ending, or you can leave it as the way it ends. Like with Black Phone, the way it ends, perfectly fine. I don't know what the plot summary or whatever's supposed to happen with the new one. I can already tell you that I'm not looking forward to it, and there's no justification for it, in my opinion.
No, like I think with that one, I think they should just stick to what they're good at, and it's like we just said his name earlier. Your wife brought him up. The one that made
Mike Flanagan.
Yeah, Mike Flanagan. Like he knows his strength is with psychological. Like, do I think that he could do good in other aspects of horror, like paranormal stuff like that? Yeah, because I know exactly what he's gonna do. He's gonna play to his strengths. He's gonna play to where it's like balancing off of psychological and creature, or psychological and possession, or psychological and haunted house, what have you, or paranormal or anything like that. And he's gonna he's going to play to his strengths on that because he did it in Oculus. He's done it in the Haunting of Hill House and Blight Manor. Like he plays to his strengths because he takes the source material or what he's written and he applies it to what he's doing. But
and I only have seen one of his works, so I don't have like too much input on it, but I have heard those very same similarities.
Yeah. Like I think he could do good in other branches or in other genres of horror, but I know he's going to incorporate psychological into that somehow, some way, because he's done it. He did it with Oculus, because that one was technically
paranormal. If you really think about it, paranormal / possession, like, cause it's the mirror itself.
Yeah. And it's very psychological.
Yeah. And it fucks with all their heads and stuff, which also makes it seem like it's the haunted house category for a lot of people.
And then with Haunting on Hill House, which was a book from an author that we ranked in our ranking video. If you've watched that or our episode our episode on ranking, the author of that actually kind of wrote the book to be more, because I read a summary of it. I haven't read the whole thing. I haven't got my hands on it yet. I want to. The way that she wrote it was more haunted house versus psychological. Like there was some psychological aspects to it from the summary that I read, but it wasn't the way Mike Flanagan did his thing. It was more, you don't want to look around the corner because it's going to be there. It's going to be there because
your imagination makes it so much more like worse and or like intimidating than anything, as opposed to like what you can visually see sometimes. Because that's one of the reasons why King is still considered one of the best like horror writers, is because he paints such a picture that you have an image in your head and it like terrifies yourself because you're like, that's a very fucked up thing. But like my image of what I saw is different than yours, but it still kind of has that same impact no matter what.
Yeah. I think with like King, he's another one that kind of, he plays to his strengths in a lot of his books. Like I don't think I've heard a bad review on any of his books, but again, this is going off of my experiences with it.
So I mean, there's some you can kind of like say are hit and miss depending on how much you like really like care about his work and stuff like that. There's some for me that like, some that people hate. Silver Bullet's a prime example. I love Silver Bullet.
I enjoyed it. That one was the closest I think he got to psychological, that and The Shining. Because
like the Silver Bullet's more of the werewolf aspects of the supernatural on his end. And so like I appreciated that one. But then you have things like Cat People or not Cat People. What the fuck was that one?
Salem's Lot.
Well, there's that one too, but no, there's one I'm thinking of. Oh my God, it's got the shapeshifters and they look like hairless cats. Oh my goodness. I'm drawing a huge blank.
Googling it.
You're Googling it.
Cat people. Because
Cat People is an actual like horror movie from like I think the 60s.
Sleepwalkers.
Thank you. Yeah, Sleepwalkers. That's one. Sleepwalkers. Like I'm not the biggest fan of, but people like that one, and even like made for TV movies kind of like silly. But I can't say like defending Silver Bullet's much better, but it's like that bad. But I love Silver Bullet more than like Sleepwalkers.
That's fair. That is fair. I can understand that. And with me, it's like we talk about this all the time. Like Lee Winnell and James Wan and Lee Winnell can do no wrong. And
not to me personally. Like they have yet to do anything that I've like disliked, especially like with Lee's. I think Lee's directorial, whatever his first like movie directing, was like Invisible Man, and I was like super nervous because like I always tell this to my wife, I hate modernization of like the 30s monster movies. I really do, because it's very hard to bring those to like modern times, and I most of the time, other than like Hollow Man, I haven't really seen a very good like Invisible Man like representation.
Yeah, that's fair.
And then the Invisible Man came out 2019, and I fell in love with it. Like I don't know why, but like the way Lee and Wan, like when Wan do stuff, just grips me personally. So like I just like love all their work, and I love the way they write everything. Like that's why Dead Silence is also one that like a lot of people didn't really care for, but I fucking loved Dead Silence.
I'm terrified of dolls personally, but I love Dead Silence. I enjoyed it. I really did. And like for me, I would consider Dead Silence to be paranormal.
I would consider that one paranormal because it's like the spirit of what's her name killing everything, and that's very, very paranormal, not like supernatural. Because I'm only
Mary Shaw.
Mary Shaw, yeah. I would say you could also do it as like a supernatural if you want to do, because ghosts usually falls under supernatural, and that's a ghost mostly killing everything. It's like Darkness Falls with the Tooth Fairy.
You know what? Yeah, I never thought about it like that. Because I mean, the Tooth Fairy was basically a nice old lady that had something bad happen to her.
No.
You know, like have something really crappy happen to her, and just be like, all right, that's it. I'm coming back as a vengeful ghost, and you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it. You're gonna catch these hands. You're gonna get it. It's like, why'd we piss her off? Who did this? I didn't sign up for this. I'm going home.
Exactly. And that's why like Supernatural is one that like covers like a lot of this as well. So like you can really use the Supernatural to cover your psychological as well in some aspects. Cause like, for instance, in like the way I see it is like Alfred Hitchcock with Birds. I use that one as like a very good psychological. It's more of like a animal versus human kind of thing, but you could also see it as psychological because like it ingrained into a lot of people, like much like what Jaws did to a lot of people, which has made them terrified of something super common.
Yeah, because I mean, like, this is side note, whatever you want to call it. But a fun fact, more people die to vending machines and cows separately than they do to shark attacks. So like
it's just the funniest thing. But Jaws made it seem like all sharks are manhunters. It's the same thing with like one of the instances that happened like in the early 1900s when they were building the railroads over in India and stuff was like the lion and the quick in the darkness. No, the lion in the darkness, the ghost in the darkness. My bad. Holy shit. Val Kilmer.
Oh, with the man-eating tiger.
The lions,
the lions and the tigers, yeah. Because I mean, we're not really. I would firmly believe that like with us as humans would not taste good to certain animals. Like,
I mean, it's the same thing with some people not liking certain either cuts of meat or a certain type of animal breeds. Like, I mean, for me, example, I don't really care for turkey or goose, but I'll have duck.
Duck's not bad. See me, I like turkey over goose and duck because to me, goose and duck is just too greasy when you cook it certain ways.
No, I agree with you on that, but it's just like that instance right there. So I would assume it could be in the same sense, but at the same time, like, you know, we're not chomping down on people, so we really can't make that argument.
Yeah, like it's not like I'm friggin' sitting here and I've got like a basement full of people. I don't even have a basement, but it's not like I got a basement full of people and be like,
who sounds good tonight? I'm down.
And he's like, come here, Victor. You look like you got some marbling on you. And he's just like, but yeah, no. Which actually kind of, you know, with us comparing and contrasting, this actually got me thinking. Would you consider all slasher flicks to be of the same genre, or would you consider them to kind of?
I feel like some of them would have to be taken for their own things. I would say like suspenseful on a lot of them, because like I consider, even though Halloween is like the OG slasher and everything like that, it's very like would put like thriller movies and that like suspense and like the stereotypes of like college girl, final girl, everyone getting in the way dies kind of a concept. And yeah, I still love Carpenter for it, don't get me wrong, but it's at that president of everything. Because I mean, you can still see that like either a final girl moment with a lot of slashers. I mean, you have a lot of them being mostly Freddy, Jason, Leatherface, Pinhead, Ghostface, Chucky.
Yeah, I feel like Myers would be good suspense slasher. Chucky would be supernatural slasher or possession slasher.
I would think more possession personally, but then again, it's like the spirit, which again falls under supernatural if you really want to put it in that way.
Yeah, and then
Pinhead is definitely be paranormal because it's an object. And then inside that object is this whole nother dimension. And then that's also, again, you can lump that in with the slasher as well.
I think out of all of them, honestly, I think that, like, you know, despite the inspirations that they come from, I think that the most believable, if it were to happen, knock on wood, would probably be Leatherface, in my personal opinion. Because I don't see a 6 foot, I don't see a 6'8" man putting on a friggin' what's his name? William
Shatner.
William Shatner mask, walking around in blue overalls that you can shoot 78 times, and he just gets up and is just like, man, this is my favorite pair, and just like walk off.
Yeah, no, I get you on that. But something like fucking Hannibal Lecter and Leatherface in general would definitely be what's on the table, because people be a little scary. That's why I love like the ones that are more grounded in reality, because like that's more horrifying to me.
Yeah, I mean, so with
like home invasion movies for me are like the ones I really love but hate at the same time. If that makes sense. There's some that are great and a lot are terrible. Like Last House on the Left versus what was that one that was based on a true story? Wolf Creek.
Wolf Creek. Have you
Wolf
ever seen
Creek,
that?
yeah. Mhm.
That one was a good one, and that was a really messed up situation that those people found themselves in. But
Yeah.
I would say that, you know, like, I don't know. I feel like for me personally, it'd probably have to be either a combo of the home invasion or someone somehow overpowering me and throwing me in the back of the van and me waking up hanging from a meat hook in a basement. Like that just,
Yeah, no, that's like that's the one scene, honestly, that like still hits me in my soul. Is I think it's in the remake with Jessica. I want to say Biel, one of the Jessicas.
famous Jessica's.
Yeah, after he cuts off the dude in the yellow tank, he cuts his leg off and he hooks him, and then he just grabs the handful of salt and just right on his leg cut. I'm just like, every time I'm just like, oh god, that must burn. Like the hook, yeah, is obviously gonna hurt. Losing the leg, obviously gonna hurt. But that like literal salt in the wound, just like, my god, just sends so many shivers down my spine.
I can't remember. Was like on top of Leatherface, you know, being Leatherface and stealing people's phases and taxidermying it into a mask that he can wear. Were they also cannibals?
Yeah, they were. The family was.
I couldn't remember if they were. I've only watched.
Well, think of Dead by Daylight. Remember, he's called the Cannibal.
Oh yeah, that is true. I forgot because like I couldn't remember if they were cannibals or they weren't, because I'm not the biggest. I respect Texas Chainsaw Massacre for what it is, but in like a straight up fight, I would see, if I put Leatherface against Michael Myers, I think Leatherface is going down, like hands down.
Well, I mean, if you really like put two and two together, they don't say he's a supernatural being or anything like that. So he literally could, like, he's been hurt, like he's been hurt before. So he's pure human comparatively to the other slashers, or along with Ghostface. But you know what I mean?
Yeah. Because I mean, but I think out of like the non-paranormal slashers, which means no Freddy, no
Jason,
Pinhead.
no Myers, no Pinhead, no.
Well, I mean, Myers isn't paranormal anymore. He was in the Season of the Witch, and
it's been years since I've seen like a Myers. The last ones I fully remember watching were the zombie remakes, which I appreciated.
I enjoyed them. I liked what they were because he mixed in a little bit of psychological with like paranormal and Michael. Because it was kind of like you got a glimpse into what Michael's mind what went on inside his head and how it transpired to his sister. Whereas, don't fully quote me on this, but Halloween 2018 recanonized
the new trilogy.
Yeah, it recanonized the entire Halloween franchise. So 1 and 2 are still canon. Laurie is no longer Michael's sister, and she's just the babysitter that got away and is stuck in Michael's head as the person that reminds him of his sister, pretty much. And then in Halloween Kills, because that was 2018. The one that came out 2020 or 2021, I can't remember. It was the one that ended the franchise. Michael is no longer supernatural from the Season of the Witch, so he's just a guy that is hell-bent on killing, and he feels as though killing gives him more power, and you know, he's just basically locked his real self away subconsciously, so that little kid that killed his sister in the 70s is the guy that we still have today. Like, he never matured, he never grew past that. He just got bigger and stronger and more determined, essentially. And spoiler alert, sorry for anyone that hasn't seen it yet, he does die in the last one. Laurie kills him.
I don't know what changes. I just know that like everyone had a problem with the way it ended. I don't know. I still have yet to see them. I need to see them just because I do like Myers. He's not my like favorite slasher, but I do like Myers.
But yeah, I think that Myers, if it was a supernatural Myers, there's only like a few that I don't see him taking down. But like non-supernatural Myers, if him and Leatherface were to go head to head, I think Myers has him beat, because Myers is still ridiculously strong.
Yeah, I mean, he's fucking punching through like boards and drywall and studs and all this other shit and just knocking motherfuckers down.
Yeah,
I mean, not to put any lightness on Bubba, because Bubba do be strong too. Yeah. But
he's country strong, whereas like Myers is like borderline superhuman strong. Like,
I mean, I always look at it like, what killers do they bring into the like Mortal Kombat franchise?
Yeah,
because they always like show the best of them, like Jason being in there, Leatherface being in there.
Yeah, Freddy was in one of them.
9. He was in MK9.
Yeah, like I want to see Myers just like show up and fight Omni-Man, and I don't want to see a Myers versus Omni-Man in Mortal Kombat. Make it happen. Make it happen.
Well, it'd be kind of hard. I don't think they've done Myers yet. No, they haven't done Myers. It's possible. MK11 was one of my favorite like guest stars because they had Spawn, but that's biasism. Anywho,
Spawn was really good in that one because I watched gameplay of it, and one dude,
he's so fucking hard to use.
Yeah, one dude ended up maining him to where he like learned his combos ridiculously. Like,
that's what I want to do with him, but like I'm more better with Shao Kahn and fucking Frost, but that's video game talk.
Oh yeah, that's for a whole nother episode. But yeah, like I think that like Myers would be a good suspense, whereas like I don't know if this is a genre, but like Dread and well hold on, I take that back. I'm sorry. Whereas Leatherface would be more cannibal survivor horror because he's trying to kill you to feed his family and you're trying to survive. Whereas like, you know, cannibal and survivor are two totally different ones. Like there's not a fine line that divides those. It's just you have your wrong turn and then you have your green hell.
Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, well, yeah, Green Inferno's such a fantastic movie. I love that movie. They did so many right things with that.
They really did. Like I think there should be a sub genre of horror that should be like movies that aren't horror but are considered horror. Me personally. Like
I feel like there's a lot that can be kind of brought into that. Like one of the trivia games that me and my wife have, they have like horror can show up in many places and they'll like pull out like, you know, spots that scare people in certain like family movies or random movies in general that you don't expect. For instance, like Pee-wee's Big Adventure, Large Marge, when she does a scary face like that, one took a lot of people. Beetlejuice being another one, just stuff like that. And they're considered in that, but they're like funny horror or like comedy horror, because I mean you have again like your Tucker and Dale versus Evil, your scary movies, Haunted House, those kind of things.
So yeah, your spoofs and your black comedies and stuff like that. Because honestly, Tucker and Dale versus Evil is just
I love that movie so much. It's so stupid.
I love my favorite scene in the entire thing is where I forget if it's Tucker or if it's Dale. He's throwing pieces of wood into the wood chipper, and then the dude goes to like push him in, and he moves out of the way in the last second, and the guy he's like, "What the hell?" He's like, "These crazy college kids are just throwing themselves in the wood chipper."
Are they part of a suicide cult? They're all trying to get him, so this kid just threw himself in there.
And like all the guy's friends sees is the guy just has a hold of his legs, and he's just like,
it's just crazy. He's being chased by the bee. Oh, it's such a dumb movie, but it's so good.
It's like I enjoyed it. I didn't know what to expect going into it. I thought it was going to be I seriously thought it was going to be a friggin' kind of like a Evil Dead kind of thing or Shaun of the Dead.
When I read like a little description of the movie, I was just like, this doesn't seem like a scary movie. Is this a comedy of some sort? I was like, I'm gonna assume it's a comedy. Let's just try it as a comedy. And as I'm watching the movie, like, this is definitely a comedy. I love this already, but I love how they fit in every stereotype with it and so on and so forth. It's just so good and it's so stupid.
Yeah, I was like, let me see. Yeah, I was I'd have to agree because I was expecting it to be a kind of an Evil Dead situation or Army of Darkness, where it was kind of like horror, but it had funny parts in it. No, this was just full comedy with horror bits sprinkled in.
Yeah, it's so funny. I love that movie so much. It is so dumb.
And or the one part where the guys where they're all like running through the woods and the guy keeps looking behind him and like impales himself on the stick.
Yeah,
all he was doing was he was just running away trying to get the bees off of his face, and he's just that was a great movie. I would consider that one to be comedy / horror instead of horror comedy, whereas like
agreed, but it still falls under that. Blake is the main correlation, unfortunately. So And that's also the other thing too, is like I just feel like anything that's like horror related doesn't really get recognized, especially by like a lot of like mainstream people, because like it's always the degenerates or whatever insert insulting thing, or just wanted to get scared and cheap thrills, whatever you want to lump it into.
Yeah.
Just they do so many things. I was actually talking to the wife about this earlier, was that they do so many things right, and with Jimmy too. Like they do so many good animatronics, so much good makeup. They bring in like some really good scream queens, or just people who like have very good control of their voice, and it's so good. But it's not seen as like a serious thing. And I'm like, dude, I think there's some of the best things ever. You tell me like there's this Oscar movie and a horror movie that's like anywhere between campy and shitty to like great. I'll go see the horror movie first before I even touch this Oscar movie.
Yeah, like Robert Englund. He, like, everyone thought that he had his voice modulated in the first, I think it was 3 or 4 Nightmare on Elm Streets, where it was just him, because he could naturally do that and change the tone and the pitch and how he sounded and how he spoke to be Freddy Krueger. Whereas like in the other ones, they modulated it a little bit to give it more of that demonic thing, because Freddy came back from hell and so on and so forth, and he was more supernatural. And, and I get that, but like how many other like cameos or things has he been in where it's just like other horror movies, like the guy that was, what was his name? He plays I can't remember his name, but he plays the coroner and mortician in the Final Destination movies.
Tony Todd. I thought you were talking about Tony Todd.
Tony Todd, yes, where he plays the mortician and the coroner in a lot of the Final Destinations, but he's also Candyman. You're like,
I fucking love Tony Todd.
Like I love the theory that I read a couple years ago on his character in Final Destination. Like they thought him to be death because nothing bad ever happened to him, even though death was always around him.
Not only that, it's like the way he like talks to the cast in general. It's like he already knows what's going to happen. He's just waiting for it to play out. It's like a game of chess with him.
Yeah, I think in the first one he tells them how death is essentially going to collect them, and the guy doesn't put it together until like the second or third person dies. The guy that gets the cord wrapped around his neck from the clothesline in the shower. Yeah, Todd.
I don't know why. Like, there's some things like I always remember from random movies, and it bothers me. Important shit I don't remember. Just use of shit like that I remember.
Dude, I'm the same way with movie lines. Really, I really am. Like I'll bust out a friggin' thing from like Super Troopers 1 or Super Troopers 2, but ask me to remember a time and date for a friggin' doctor's appointment.
Yeah, even if it's on the calendar, I don't look at that shit.
It's like it's not important. Who taught you how to who taught you how to chug syrup? Or my favorite line from Super Troopers 2: Pele, pow, Farva, you fuck. I still need
to see the second one. I haven't seen the second one. I heard it's not as good as the first one, but it's still pretty funny.
Yeah, I would agree to that. It's still hilarious. I would watch them I think they're on Prime. I'm gonna have to check it out, but I would watch them in tandem. I would watch 1 then 2 because I love them. They're a funny movie, campy and just hilarious. But
the other film they did, Club Dread, which is like their little spoof on like survival on a fucking island with a killer on the loose, is still really funny too. As stupid as it is, I fucking love that movie.
I love the early 2000s run that they went on, because they had Super Troopers in the 90s, and then in the 2000s we got Club Dread, Oktoberfest,
or what was it? No, it was like the one where they go and they drink a shitload of beer, and they say they had that disclaimer like, do not drink as much beer as they drink in this movie, you will die.
It was Beer Fest.
There it is. There, I'm thinking
they had Beer Fest, and then they had another one too, where it was a couple of the people where someone dies, or wait, no, I'm thinking of Beer Fest. I can't remember. It was kind of like
all the Broken Lizards films, but that's like the only 3 I really technically me count Super Troopers 2 that I really know.
Yeah, he had a friggin' hell of a run in the 90s to early 2000s, and then we got Super Troopers 2, and all like the diehard fans were like, yes, but it's still like it's still funny even if you watch them to today, because you're just like, what the fuck? There's
something about the early 2000s and late 90s that is just so like unhinged that the stuff that we used to laugh at. It used to be like all the stupid fart jokes and so on and so forth, and then like there's a shift in comedy and horror and all this other stuff. You're like, oh, they're taking things more seriously, or they're trying to like adapt with whatever current thing is. And it's always funny too, because then that's where you also see yourself like growing up, because you're like, I don't understand this new kind of humor. I don't like it.
I kind of remember that shift because I watched, what was it? I think I watched either Jason in when he takes over Manhattan, when he goes to New York.
That one's so bad. I hate that one so much. Actual Jason would be murdering every single body he saw, not just the kids. He would murder everybody.
Yeah, like the guys whose stereo he kicked, he would have walked. Yeah. He would have freaking killed them, kicked the stereo, walked off. Like I get that. It was either that or Jason Goes to Hell. I can't remember. And then I went out with my girlfriend at the time, and we watched One Missed Call.
I remember that movie.
And that's when I kind of noticed a shift, because that movie actually it wasn't super scary. Don't get me wrong. It was a fun date night movie. Mm-hmm. And she was the one that suggested it. And I was like, all right, cool. I love horror. We watch it. And that one was more of a supernatural.
I remember that movie. I've only seen it the one time. Like I don't know. It's like I'm weird when it comes to certain horror movies. Like some of the ones that like stay unknown for a very long time, when they first came in theaters, not a lot of people talked about, I loved, and then like they blew up and I was really happy, but then they started getting like unnecessary sequels out of nowhere. I was like, why the fuck are you doing this?
Yeah, I kind of remember that was a different shift, and I think they shifted that in the wrong way, and it was just like no, stop.
I like associate The Descent and The Descent 2. Like I love the first one, but like what is that second one? And then I also heard like there's the diamond in the rough, I guess you could say, because I never saw the movies, but my wife swears that 47 Meters Down sucked, but the sequel was better, and it's very rare that you ever hear something like that happening, especially in horror.
Yeah, especially in horror. Like I do remember that kind of shift where it went from like the jumps, like you had your jump scare, you had your slasher, and then you just had your genre based horrors, and then it's kind of like, hey, have we tried a psychological creature feature yet? Where we don't know if the creature's really there or not, and then you get what would be a good psychological creature feature that I'm thinking of?
One that pops into my head immediately would be like Malignant, but it's not really. I mean, it is supernatural, but it's not if you really think about it. Malignant was kind of a silly movie, but it's so great. It's super suspenseful and thriller for the first half, and then turns into full on slasher in the end. It's so good.
I didn't expect it to have that twist in it. It actually caught me off guard.
Dude, me and my wife were like, literally as it's getting up to like the big reveal, we're both like, what the fuck is this movie? And all of a sudden that whole thing happens. We're like, what the fuck is this movie? I love this. This is so weird. Then like then James Wan comes out with Megan, and you're like, oh my God.
Yeah. I don't even know what Megan was. Like I watched half of it, and I was just like, I love James Wan. He does no wrong, but I did not like that movie. It's
such a silly movie. I love it because it's silly. I did not take that movie serious one bit. It is super silly. But it's classic in its own way, for me at least.
But yeah,
I also like that refresher, them trying new things, especially with the subgenres.
Yeah, because I think honestly, what I would like to see is another psychological one from James Wan and Lee Winnell, because
I would love. Oh my God, I would love that so much.
Because the first Saw, honestly, wasn't. It was very torture, gore porn.
It became torture porn. It really did become it eventually. But the first one is such a good psychological thriller, intense, like just what the fuck. And what I love about, like, for me, like Saw 1 is always like one of my like pinnacle horror movies. And that's just because like I love the behind the scenes of that. I watched a lot of the makings of that. That's what made me really fall in love with like Lee and Juan. Like they're both just, I love them. And it's all because of a short that they did. But like that whole movie was filmed in like 16, 18 days. They had a very shitty budget. Most of it was spent on like the two main cast members, which is Tapp and Carrie Ellis's character, Dr. Gordon. Like the main money was spent on them and the equipment. And they did everything else like as practical as they could and everything. And it's so good on how they do some of the reverse shots. Like I love that movie. And the way they did it, it spawned a lot of clones in that way.
Yeah. And I think I would love to see them do another psychological focused one, because that one was kind of a combo. It was a psychological survival gore or torture focus thing.
They very became more about the how do they kill as opposed to the means. But the first one really set that like
precedent.
Tense, that very tense, and just showing you what he had done in the past and what they're kind of in store for to expect. And the whole climax of just like of how they did the whole sawing of the foot is just still one of my favorites. I love how they did that. It's super simple, but like I love it.
I love the fact. I love how it ended, where he's like, "You'll find the key around your neck," and he in the beginning of the movie, it like went down the drain, and he's just like, "No," and you're like,
that scream. Like I need to find a way to edit that properly, but I want Lee's scream at the end of that movie as a sound cue or some type of like alert for me, because I love that scream.
Find me a video of it and I'll make it happen.
Oh, like I know how to do it. I'm just trying to like, what do I want that? Because if it's overplayed, I don't want it to ruin that for me, you know?
Yeah, that's fair. I could see that. I wouldn't do it as bits. Maybe as a raid. Oh, no,
I might do it. I already have my Samara Weaving as my raid, but that's something for down the road. It's like not immediate right now. Just I love that scream though. Like there's that's why Samara Weaving scream is one of my favorites. Is like I have that. Like there's very certain things. I might even have it as a follow. I don't know, but there's very few like sounds. Like that's where my like, audio file comes out. There's very like specific sounds I listen for, and like that's also where like I scare some of my friends and stuff. Like when I talk about Smile, for instance, because that one's a supernatural one. Like I gush over the end of that movie with the way they do the face peeling. Like I gushed over that. I loved that.
I actually saw a YouTuber use that as like B-roll before I even knew what the movie was. He said something about peeling your face off, and then it did that, and I was like, what is that from? And then you were talking about Smile, and then I was like, oh yeah, I heard about this movie where, you know, blah 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 blah, and I brought it up to you, and I talked about the face peeling part, and you're like, that's Smile, and I was like,
it's so smooth. I gushed over that. I scared my wife by talking about it so much. She was just like, you need to calm your shit down. I was like, but I need to talk about it. I don't think you understand how beautiful that looked. like I think honestly there should be like, I don't want like, this is going to sound weird when I say it out loud, but I think there should be like an ASMR aspect in a lot of horror movies. Like I hate ASMR. Like I hate the people whispering into the audio
headphones. Cues
are so good, especially like, again, when it comes to like, again, when you look at the slasher or like any movie that uses a knife on how they do the like knife going into the flesh. Like you're always like, you know, okay, even if you don't see it, you hear that sound, you're like, okay, someone got stabbed. Like it's the audio cues and like how it sounds, because horror is all about supposed to make you uneasy, uncomfortable, scared, blah 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 blah, and they try and go as real as they can, and sometimes they go a little too real for some people.
Yeah.
And that's one of the things, like when I find those kind of like very uneasy, unnerving ones on certain subjects and or things, I really love it. But that's also why I say like Last House on the Left is like legitimately the only movie that's made me feel disgusted watching it because of that one scene, because it's done so well.
It really is. Like I know what scene you're talking about. I won't mention it because reasons, but
yeah,
trigger
warning.
warning.
Count your blessings.
Yeah, if you don't know, do count your blessings. If you want to watch the movie, do, but be cautious. Trigger warning for
of SA. That's like all we can say is SA.
Yeah, and I do remember that scene, and I like my teenage brain couldn't comprehend what was going on at the time, because you know, like when it came to being not in that situation, but being in the heat of the moment with a partner, consent was always something in the forefront of my mind, because no meant no. And like that didn't exist to me outside of, you know, in my head. So when I seen that part, I was like, I had to pause the movie and look at my girlfriend and be like, are you okay? And she was like, yeah, play the movie. And I'm like, what was that? And she explained it to me and everything like that. And I was like, people do that? And she was like, yeah. She was like, yeah, it happens a lot. I was like, oh my God.
And that's why, like I say, that realism is what's like more terrifying than anything to me. Like I love my creature features, I love my like jump scares at times and so on and so forth. But like that is just like when it makes you that uncomfortable, it's like, this is a good movie, but it's like, fuck me, what did I just watch?
Yeah. For me, I would have to say the movie that was the worst for me was, God, what was the name of that movie? Well, I still have the DVD of it somewhere, and I regret buying it because it's very graphic. It was a remake from the 1970s. And it's a girl. It was like over the toply done. Like it was super graphic.
Shock value for shock value. I remember that was a big thing because that's what like Cannibal Holocaust was. That's what Serbian film is. There's a lot of movies that are there for just shock and awe. They serve no purpose other than to be fucked up to say they're fucked up.
But it was, I can't remember. Spit on Your Grave. That's the name of the movie. Big trigger warning on that movie. If you are,
I have heard of that one.
It was like I was in the Marine Corps, and we were having kind of like a little barracks party for me and a couple of the buddies that didn't want to go home for 96. That's a 4-day weekend for anybody that doesn't know. And we went to Walmart. We got some snacks. We got a bunch of different movies. Like I got 3, my buddy got 3, and then our other friend got 3. And we all sat in my barracks room because I was the only person that had a Blu-ray player at the time because we couldn't find one of the movies that we wanted to watch on DVD. So we had to get a Blu-ray player. And I was like, well, what do we want to watch first? And they're like, pop in that movie that you got, the top one. I was like, Spit on Your Grave. And they're like, yeah, we'll watch that first. None of us, like when that scene happened, we all put our snacks down. Like we put our drinks down, we put our snacks down, and we just sat like this.
Yeah, there's just so many, like, that's how I was like during that movie. Like I looked at, like I came and look at my friend. I was like, just like shock and all. It's like, are we supposed to be watching this? Like, this feels wrong watching this. Yeah. And we were both like, this is fucked. And then the movie kept playing. We're like, okay, movie was over. But we was like, that one scene, that like, however long it was, scene was just like so stuck with me. I was like, this is super fucked. But they did a good job in that sense. But that's the problem with it, is it's too real.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I remember that's another genre that I don't hear talked about a whole lot, is the realism horror. Like
I love realism. Like, I was actually watching Sabotage. If you haven't seen that, it's like a very accurate portrayal of like dealing with the cartel and shit.
Yeah,
it's a very good film, and it's very, very like grounded in reality on how it is. And there's some spots where you're just like, holy fuck, this is not for the faint of heart in some ways.
Yeah, you can't be timid in going, or shy and going into this expecting to have like some kind of like campy film. Like you got to be prepared.
You gotta be prepared. Yeah, there's some scenes in there that are in there for shock and awe for very specific reasons.
That's how I was with Cannibal Holocaust and Serbian film, because like I watched Cannibal Holocaust, and then couple years later they had, I think it was a YouTube video that was talking about it, and they were talking about horror movies that didn't turn out the way people wanted them to, but they blew up for other reasons. And the producer of Cannibal Holocaust had to prove that all of the cast members that were in the film
were still alive. Yeah, no, I remember that whole thing. And that was also the thing too, is that like I don't think like Cannibal Holocaust is like, especially nowadays, it's considered a more tame in some ways, but it's still very graphic.
Oh, very.
But it's the controversy that makes the movie like obviously more sought after, and everyone's like, oh yeah, we got to talk about this film. And unfortunately, like that's with a lot of things. That's why I feel like, again, oversaturation or the popularity of things is not always necessarily a good thing, because it's either you're making a bad movie look really good, or vice versa, making a really, really good movie look bad.
Yeah, I would love another horror boom like we had when Halloween came out. How we just kind of like,
I see, that's what I tell my wife. Like I'm always wanting more horror movies, but it's like the ones that don't come out around Halloween are never like fantastic, but it's either like October to like March are like the sweet horror movies, but even then there's still a lot of hit or misses. And like, but when they hit, they hit.
Yeah, like, God, what was that one movie? White Noise for me, that came out in like the middle of summer, like middle school. I can't remember.
I remember summer movies. Summer horror used to be pop, and we got the Final Destinations, we got like My Bloody Valentine, stuff like that.
I liked My Bloody Valentine because it had one of my favorite actors at the time in it as the big bad, which was Jensen Ackles, because at that time was when he was growing in popularity because of Supernatural. And I was a day one watcher of Supernatural. I watched it on the CW when they released the pilot, and then I waited a week for them to actually start the first season, because the pilot, they aired the pilot on like a Wednesday or Thursday night, or Tuesday or Wednesday night, excuse me. And then like a week later is when they were like, we got greenlit for the show. Here's the first 3 episodes. And I was just like, ha, because that pilot they shot on a very low budget and everything like that. And it just kind of became a 15-year ride for me. And
I haven't gotten past season 6, so don't crucify me. But no, I do remember that rise of the popularity with him, because I remember it was him in My Bloody Valentine, and then I can't remember the actor's name who played. Yeah, him being in Friday the 13th. Like, I was like, they're hitting bigger milestones in ways, because I always see, like, it's funny how some people will go from like the TV to action star into like humble like movies, or stick in the action phase, but like for them it's like TV stars into horror movies, into doing whatever the fuck they want now.
Yeah. And you know what's really funny? Both of them got their starts on soap opera. Jared got his start on One Tree Hill, and then I might have this backwards. Jared got his start on One Tree Hill, and Jensen got his start on Gilmore Girls.
Reverse. Jared was on Gilmore Girls. The reason why I know that is because his name is Dean in that show, and I always see him as Sam. So I'm always like, hey, look at Sam. And my wife is all, no, that's Dean. I was all, no, Dean's different.
Dean is way different.
She's all, well, he was Dean first.
It's like, yeah. So
that's not how I know him.
Yeah. It's like how you guys met Jared Padalecki and Jensen Ackles, how I met Jensen and Jared.
Yeah.
But yeah, I loved Supernatural because they covered a lot of the paranormal and supernatural horror, because,
and along with the folklore and a lot of that too.
Yeah, because I mean, even though the show was called Supernatural, they had entities, they had possessions, they had hauntings, they had it all, and
they had so many things. My favorite episode, I think it was like season 4 or season 5, was when they do the whole episode in black and white, and it's all like 1930s based, where you see the mummy and you see like the creature from the Black Lagoon. Yeah, I love that episode.
I have 3 favorite, and it's because they're funny. My first favorite is Yellow Fever. Basically, Dean catches a ghost sickness.
That's where he's always scared of everything.
Yeah.
And the cat. Yeah. Okay.
And that one's my top favorite. The Mystery Spot, which is where Dean dies repeatedly, and he just Sam keeps getting woken up to in the heat of the moment. And that's my second favorite. My third favorite is the crossover with Scooby-Doo.
I haven't seen that one. That's way later in the season. I know that, or series. I know that, but
yeah,
I did hear that was a very good crossover.
Season 14.
Yeah, that's way deep.
Because like everyone says their catchphrase when they find a dead body. You got Jinkies, Jeepers, Zoinks, Rutrow, and then son of a bitch. And it's like I loved it. It was great. But yeah, there was a couple episodes in there that are like, but those are my top 3 favorite ones, because to me those were the funniest, because I liked when they went from having like Sam trying to prove to Dean that he's not crazy, to Dean dying a different way than Sam remembers, and him like they just cut to where it just starts happening faster, where Dean's like sitting there and they're eating tacos, and he looks at Sam and he goes, "These tacos taste funny to you?" And it's just like, my God, because that one's so funny. That one is hands down my biggest favorite of the 3. I didn't name them in order, but yeah, it goes Mystery Spot, Yellow Fever, and then the Scooby-Doo one, in that order. But yeah, like I loved Supernatural for what it did, because it got me back. Like, I liked horror prior to, but Supernatural is what got me back into horror and watching and watching movies all over again, because I left it alone because of Drag Me to Hell.
I love Sam Raimi, so I loved Drag Me to Hell, but I know it's not everybody's cup of tea. Like, so I know it's very, very campy. It's very Sam Raimi. Like, I love Sam Raimi so much. Like, I love Darkman as well. Like, Darkman is one of my favorite things. Like, Sam Raimi does no wrong to me. I fucking silly goober. I love him.
There's another supernatural creature horror movie that I'm trying to remember the name of, that I never got a part 3 to, that I really wanted to. There was, oh God, hold on. I gotta Google it.
Like, part of me would love prequels of certain things, but I hate prequels because you already have the middle side of the story or the end of the story, and why waste that time trying to do the beginning again and like tell the tale all over? Like, I use The Thing as a prime example, but just really wish they didn't use as much CG. They had all these animatronics and props, and the director was just like, "Oh, this looks like a bad '80s movie. I don't like this anymore. I want to end this." And it was like, dude, they look so much better than the CG we got.
Here it is. It was called. Wait, hold on. It was called Night Watch. It was a Danish. I almost said it was Russian, but it was Danish. It was a Danish film where like a whole bunch, like a war between light and dark happened. Like you had your vampires and your werewolves versus like your angels and your saints and stuff like that. And it avoids any like religious in any religious aspect of it. But like you have your light side and your dark side, and they were at war for a while. And then out of nowhere, they made a peace treaty between each other. And let me see, I think it might have been Night Watch 2004. Here it is. But it basically what happens is that the dark side watches over the daytime to make sure that there's no light side users doing crazy stuff. And then the light side watches over the nighttime for the dark side to make sure that there's no dark side users doing anything crazy. And it follows this guy.
No fuckery.
Yeah, and it's a great movie. They made a 1 and 2. They were supposed to make a third one. I don't know what happened to the third one, but the third one was supposed to end the series, and the first two were great. It was like they were just I enjoyed it. It was a great movie, had a great story. It was very paranormal. Like the guy, he goes to chase down a vampire, and what he does to chase a vampire is in that world you temporarily become a vampire if you drink some vampire blood. Like you get the same powers as them for a short period of time. So he's sitting on the train with like these big ass glasses on, looking like a crazy person, and he's just like sitting there trying to find this vampire. And like he's looking at humans and seeing like their circulatory systems and stuff like that. Like it's CGI, but it's really done well CGI for that time period. And it's just a really long story. If you haven't watched it, I do recommend it. Oh, it was a Russian urban film. A Russian urban fantasy. Sorry, supernatural thriller, directed by Timur. Long last name. Bekman Betov. Yeah, but yeah, it was just called Night Watch, and it came out in 2004, and it's a really good film. It was crazy, and yeah, that was one that I wanted to see a third version of, because I'm not big on a whole lot of horror sequels, but that was one horror sequel that I really wanted to see.
Yeah, no, horror sequels, especially that's one of the things I always say with the slasher films in general. They like to do a lot of movies, which I really like the lot of movies, but at the same time, you start to spread yourself too thin, and then you have to reboot the franchise and whatnot. But that's what I liked about like Freddy 1 and 3 are like my all-time favorites. The rest of them, you can take them or leave them. We just don't talk about too. And then like Friday the 13th, there's a couple that I like. I think it's like 1, 2, 4, and 5 I really like. It's been a long time since I've seen the Myers Marathon, but that's like the main ones I go to when I think of slasher. And yeah, when you look at the long catalog, a lot of them are bad. When you look at the short catalog, like of the like fan favorites and stuff like that, you can just stick with those ones and call it good.
Yeah, because the name of the sequel is called Day Watch. You have Night Watch and you have Day Watch, and there was supposed to be another one. I don't know what the third one was supposed to be called, but yeah, like there's not a whole lot of horror movies that make my favorites list as far as sequels. I consider Michael Myers from Carpenter a different Michael Myers than we got from Zombie and the 2018 and the final.
Well, Zombies was supposed to be drastically different in a lot of ways, but like he was still more human than like supernatural entity in a way.
Yeah.
But I could still take a wallop and whatnot. The zombie one I like as the 1-2. I really appreciate it for what it is, just being the duo and being as they are. And I don't like the second one more, but I do appreciate it. I think like one of the very few examples is like Friday the 13th. The first and second one are almost like copy paste, like just random person killing, but at least you know who the killer is in the second one now, as opposed to the first one. It was a very mystery, it's like who's doing all this killing.
Yeah.
And then the rumor spreads Jason of everything and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah. And then friggin' turns out to be his crazy mom. And that was what threw me for a loop, is because I watched, oh God, what was it? I think I either watched the third one or the fifth one before I watched the first one. Hold on, let me see. I'm gonna Google it and I'll be able to tell you. And I considered like a very drastic change from the first two, because he wasn't supernatural in the second one. He was still a normal human being.
Hillbilly buddy.
Yeah, and he, became a supernatural in the third one, because by that time he had already been, dragged down to the bottom of Crystal Lake, blah, 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 blah. But like Jason X,
we don't talk about that. That's also what I'm saying. Like, you spread yourself so thin. Like Jason X, like you get to a point where you're like, man, these are so bad.
Yeah, and that's another. I think that should be a different subgenre. Is you have space horror and then horror that went to space, because your space horror is like Alien and some
Alien,
of the
Event Horizon, fucking
Space Odyssey 2001.
Yeah, you could also even use I just had it in my head. Well, you have Life, you have Cloverfield Paradox, like in space horror. There's another one that I had in my head and I just forgot it. Bugging me. Oh well, it'll come back to me hopefully.
And then you have your horror that went to space. You have your Hellraiser. You have your Jason X. I'm glad Freddy Myers never went to space. That would have.
It was weird. That early 2000s was weird. Like I said, it was unhinged in weird ways. Like, we got a lot of space horror movies that were like different, not like Event Horizon, which I love that movie. Oh my god. That's why I love.
I was wrong. I watched 6 before I watched 1. But you're saying, I'm sorry.
Like, that's what made me love Dead Space so much, is that it felt very Event Horizon, the ship being like this possessed thing, along with like Alien, where you have all these monsters coming after you. Like, that's what made me love Dead Space 1 for the very first time back in 2008. But like, I love Event Horizon. A lot of people haven't really seen that movie, and it makes me sad because I love that movie.
Is that the one where, oh god, what's his name?
Sam Fisher. My god. Lawrence Fishburne and Sam Neill are in it.
And then at the end of it, like basically they're in the middle of like or was that something else?
Oh, what was that other one? That's what it was. Pandorum? I think Pandorum with why am I drawing a blank on his name? I see his face.
Yeah, that was the one I was thinking of, because Sam Neill goes crazy and he ends up in the middle of that like spherical room with like his eyes cut out and stuff.
Well, that's the thing, is like, if the ship goes through a black hole and comes back from the plains of hell, is essentially what it is. Why the fuck am I drawing a blank on his name? I totally forgot about it.
I need to watch that again. I have not watched Event Horizon
Dennis Quaid
forever. Dennis
Quaid is that's his name I was thinking of, in Pandorum, because it's Ben Foster and Dennis Quaid in that movie, and I really liked that movie. It's different, but it reminded me of Event Horizon a lot in some ways. I really love that movie.
I can see that. I can see that being a thing. Yeah, because with me, I watched Event Horizon not when it first came out, but I think it was, oh god, how old was I when I watched that? Because it came out, I just looked it up. Event Horizon came out in 1997, so I would have been 5 when it came out.
Oh my god, I'm only 2 years younger than you, but my god, that makes me feel weird.
Yeah, and
wait, yeah, you were born in 92.
Yeah, I'll be 32 this year. Don't remind me.
Be 34.
And just to think, we knew each other when fun fact, sidebar, aside from horror, I met Miz when he was 31. He met me when I was 28, and now we've been friends for going on 4 years now. Yeah. I will be 32. He will now be 34, even though he looks younger than me. Don't come at me.
Well, I also let this grow, so like it fucking makes me look different. This is the first. Actually, this is the first time this is on.
Yeah,
second time technically.
So if you made it this far into the podcast, let us know how you like Mrs. Beard and what he should try next, because he's got to keep it for the next year. That was a part of it. That was a part of a stream deal that he made. I was not a part of it, but it's nice to have another bearded friend.
I've been getting a lot of beard compliments, like, "Oh, welcome to the beard club, brother."
Yeah, it's no pun intended. Please don't take it this way, but it grows on you after a while.
Well, I was gonna say, now that letting it all grow, it doesn't look as bad. But when I used to like shave the sides and stuff, dude, I look so stereotypical Mexican. It's not even funny. All I need is a landscaping business, and you fucking find me in anywhere.
And change your first name to like Pablo.
Yeah, or fucking Miguel.
But yeah, when I watched Event Horizon, I'm not, because it was. That was very like paranormal in space, because I mean they did go through hell and all that fun stuff, but they're like, it threw me for such a loop that like I kind of went down a rabbit hole, because it wasn't, this this was like like I could go on YouTube and look up how-tos on how to fix any car ever made from like 1913 to now. And, you know, this was back when like you click on YouTube and you might see friggin' Red versus Blue, PewDiePie, and old
Markiplier and all that, Jacksepticeye, all of them.
Yeah, like this was like way back then. So this was probably like,
God, you're talking like 2010, 2009 era, if not earlier. Oh my God.
I think I saw Event Horizon in like 06, 07. No, it was 07. It was 07 because they were celebrating the 10-year release, and I rented it from Blockbuster. What was that?
Yeah.
As they were like winding down. But yeah, they had like a big 10-year celebration release around the film and stuff like that. And I was like, I'll borrow this. I'll rent it, and watched it at a friend's house. And me and him were like sitting there like, what was that? And then come out to find out if Neilman, there was like a back when like 4chan just got its legs, and there was like a bunch of like blogs, not vlogs, blogs, BLOGS. God, I'm dating myself so bad. But there was a bunch of blogs online that you could look up and go to and find chat rooms where people were discussing movies and stuff like that before Reddit, before subreddits, before friggin' Wikipedia was like real big. There was a few things on Wikipedia back then, but there was a discussion on whether or not Neilman's character in the movie was possessed or not. And my vote was, I think he was. My friend's take on it was that because they went through the black hole, came out on the other side, had gone through the passage of hell, he had seen so much hell that it had warped his brain into a hellscape itself. So therefore he wasn't possessed, but he was at home in hell. So he was trying to make hell in space. You know what I mean?
I get you. It's more of like he accepted the darkness and everything that came through with it and everything, and just said, fuck it, we're all going down with this ship.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was another fan theory too, because like, dude, when I tell you that was like the fledgling era of 4chan, this was like people like, oh yeah, I totally agree, but this is my thesis on it, not like lol noob.
You also got to remember that's when like Facebook was first being introduced around a lot of more of the teens and everything like that, because we still had MySpace.
MySpace, where we all learned to code, and every other person's best friend was a hacker.
Dude, I remember, I think it was a Tumblr post. That's also dating myself. It was a Tumblr post that was all when we used to like, someone said like, we should make a website where you can like post with your own thoughts, so on with like blogging and so on and so forth, and have music playing in the background. And I was like, dude, does no one told them about MySpace? That was literally the thing. We coded our shit so you can have your top 5 songs playing all the time whenever someone visited our page. Showed how cool we were.
Friggin' you log on your MySpace. It's like, let's see how my top 5 are doing. Like
oh my God.
Like you could code it to where you had a top 10 too at one point in time. I remember that. But what cracked me up was that I would always save my number 1 spot for who I was dating at the time. Complete sidebar.
I think that's all of us, because we got a simp in our fucking youth.
Yeah, I would save my top space for who I was dating at the time, and when I would break up, my best friend was like my number 2 or number 3, and then I had my brother my number 2 or number 3. I forgot the order in which I had all of this from so long ago, but they would slide up into that number 1 spot, so everybody would be like, "Oh, Jimmy's dating Tommy again." Oh, and I'm like, no, not that.
That's always the funny thing too, is that it's like, you meet a new friend, you put them in your top 8, and then you have your other friend. Why the fuck did you remove you from? Oh my God, the stupid drama that would happen, dude. Oh my God, I get it now. It's like, it's so childish, but it's like we were teens, we we're going through hormones and all this other shit. But it's the funniest shit looking back on it. Like, we used to get upset at the simplest things.
It really was. This was not me. I didn't experience this, but I witnessed it. I saw a fist fight between 2 former best friends because someone got bumped from their number 2 spot to their number 3 spot because their grandma had made a MySpace. Not even kidding. Like, I was like, what were they fighting about? And my buddy goes, Oh, you didn't hear? I forgot the dude's name. I'll just say Jared.
Oh my God.
I'll just say Jared for story's sake. He was like, yeah, Jared got bumped from Michael's number 2 to number 3 spot because Michael's grandma made a MySpace. And I was like, old people on MySpace? What? Like,
yeah, and that's the funny thing too, is I remember when Facebook started coming out and everyone had a Facebook and it was just like, you have all your friends and it's like, oh, my mom wants to join now. And then now you look at it now, it's like, dude, all of our parents are on it and I'm not even touching that thing.
I go on there for memes and to check up on some old friends that I don't have their phone numbers for anymore.
Same. That's like literally to keep in touch with home and whatever other stuff, but it's not like I don't post shit on Facebook.
Yeah, no, I think the last thing I posted on there was from 20.
My wife posts more on there than I do.
Yeah, I think I posted on there last time like 2015.
I posted anything on that probably like 6 years ago, 5 years ago.
Oh my God, the 2000s were like the Wild West times of both horror movies and the internet, because that was like,
dude, I think that's everyone's horror story is fucking unfiltered internet.
Oh my God.
Unregulated internet. I think that's where everyone can like bond with. I remember like with LimeWire, I'm gonna download this music and then, get beheading videos. It's like, cool. That's not what I wanted.
I wanted Linkin Park Numb. Like, I remember one time I was, because I didn't have LimeWire on my PC, because this is like back before I even started building PCs, so I didn't know anything about like code. I didn't know anything about coding. I didn't know anything about PC parts. I didn't know how to download software properly. But what I did was on my friend's mom's PC, because she would always download LimeWire for us, and then she'd put it on her MP3 players. Yes, MP3 players, back when you couldn't have your phone and music in the same spot.
You had to either have bigger boombox and have the batteries to run that bitch, or you had a portable speaker that sounded like shit.
I really felt those lyrics. And
there's like that sweet one's too low, and then you go too high. It's like, fuck, I can't hear the lyrics. And then also the thing I miss the most. I miss for my games. I miss for my music. I miss having inside cover like paper to have all the lyrics for every song so I can learn it.
Yeah.
Or a fucking game book.
Yeah. I loved and like, oh my God, that was like what SoundCloud was, but back then, like you were like,
yeah,
it was so funny, because like you didn't know if you were actually getting the song you wanted or something else.
It's usually the something else.
And God forbid if you friggin' had like one of those MP3 players, like the iPods, the friggin' Zunes that could play
Zunes or Nanos. I remember when they like, you were able to buy off of iTunes fucking movies and people were watching them on those bricks with like 2-inch screens,
like friggin' like that big of like a
say like let's say like this, like about that big of a fucking screen. Like that's a better representation right there.
Yeah,
that big of a screen is what people were watching that on. Look at this. Like this thing is, well, you can't even see it right. This thing is super tiny.
Yeah,
and like people were like this watching movies on their goddamn iPod.
Leave me alone. I'm watching Tokyo Drift. Can you see it? No. Oh my God.
Oh my God.
Like I actually watched, no joke, I actually watched Freddy versus Jason for the first time on a Zune.
Oh my God.
Like I was going on a road trip with a friend. We were going to a friend's family's. Like I wasn't rich, he wasn't rich, but we had a rich friend. And the rich friend's family had like a beach house. And we were like, a beach
fancy
house? What is that? And they're like, you want to go? And we're like, yeah. So he's like, yeah, you guys are invited. Come on. And we're like, okay. So we were going up to it, and you got him, the friend with the rich parents in the middle, and us two poor kids in the middle with a friggin' headphone splitter jack, a 3-way splitter jack plugged into the Zune with 3 pairs of headphones and a friggin' tiny 2-inch screen like this, sitting shoulder to shoulder with each other watching Freddy versus Jason like this. Like it legit could, it barely fit in your hand because of how thick it was, because it was like that thick, but it was like that wide. And you're like,
we grew up with some of the worst shit and the best shit, and then now they're trying to bring it back. Like, have you seen the new AirPods holder? They have a touchscreen on it, and it's literally a Nano. It's an iPod Nano, legitly an iPod Nano or an iPod Shuffle that had a screen.
Oh my God. Why? Hey, you remember that thing we came out with 15 years ago? Yeah, bring it back. What?
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure it's going to be a hit with the kids because they're not going to know, and we're going to be like, you guys are idiots.
Oh my god, we had that.
I saw TikTok about it and made me laugh so much.
I'm sorry, but I think our generation, from the millennial generation, we are the only generation to have experienced this form of technology to where like we progress so far to where we have to regress a little bit.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say, like, I always tell everybody too, like, I feel like I'm so privileged. Like 80s and 90s kids, I feel like are the most privileged because they have the best of the past technology. They grew up with so many people that had so many like different upbringing. So you had your like rotary phones, your pay phones, you had all this like generational trauma, unfortunately, at the same time around you. But like you got to see everybody's living, like you got to see, unfortunately, like your friends of friends or family of friends that were like on hard times. You had your friends that were like uppity, and then as you're growing up, you see that dynamic shift or whatever happened. But you also see like that technological growth, and you're growing with it. Like we're at a point now where I feel like almost anybody can like really do whatever they want now. Like YouTube is like an actual career, streaming is an actual career. You could tell that to anyone 10, 15 years ago, they'd be pointing and laughing at you like you're wasting your life. That's never going to be a job. Influencer was never a big thing really, unless you were either a band, a model, or someone that's been on TV.
Yeah. And I mean, like, look at it this way, like Jacksepticeye friggin' like 10, 15 years ago, he was just a funny dude on YouTube playing Happy Wheels. Now he's in a movie with Ryan Reynolds.
Yeah, like it's insane how life happens. And like if you told that to anybody that, hey, in 15 years time, you're going to blow up and be one of the most famous people on the internet, which is like everybody's go-to thing to be on, everyone would be like, no, that's impossible. Or like those people that like got their ego so filled that they thought they would make it and or not, but whatever happened happens. But it's still just in the fact that like I remember like when a new game was coming out, you look forward to your like favorite YouTubers and playing it. Like I think now we're at a different time, at least for me. I'm just like, I just look for stupid, funny, silly moments now. Like I don't care if they play a brand new game, but like also now being able to like, hey, I'm stuck on this achievement I want, or this walkthrough. You actually have so many people doing that. Like back in the day, if there wasn't one that had like 100,000 views, at least you were fucked. Because you're like, no one's playing this. Views. You're like, no one's playing this game. No one's figured it out yet, or a good way to figure it out. Fuck.
Yeah. And I mean, you couldn't just Google it because that was back when Google was an actual like
search engine, not for
like movie where guy wears a hat. Were you talking about Roadhouse? It's like, yes, I was talking about Roadhouse. Like back then you'd be like, how to get blank achievement game PS3, and then like it would come up with like 50,000 searches talking about the review of the game, the game's like leveling system, the friggin' this, that, and the other. It was just like, oh my god, like the biggest thing I used it for back then was movie reviews, because I would be taking either a friend of a group of friends, and me would be going to see a movie, or me and somebody that I was dating, or I would just be going to go watch a movie by myself because I was a teenager. You know, that was like the cool thing to do to get out of the house. It's like, I'm gonna go to the movies. And now it's like everybody, and I'm not shitting on anyone's dreams, but everybody, and now everyone's like, oh, I want to make it big on YouTube. I want to make it big on Twitch. I want to make it big on Kick. I want to make it big on TikTok. And it's like, for some people, it takes effort. For some people, it's effortless. And, you know, I feel like...
I honestly feel it's like a time thing. Like the more time I feel like you can actually dedicate to it, the better. But like that's also the thing, is you're playing a huge gamble. Yeah, I know we kind of diverted a little bit, but like you're playing such a huge gamble with that, because like as of right now, I mean, if you were to tell like most YouTubers who are like literally only have all their eggs in the basket of like YouTube and streaming, and they get banned off of one of those platforms, like they are now like hindered significantly.
Yeah, I would agree, because it's like, I hate to talk about it. You know, you brought up home invasion, something really recently that happened with Sniper Wolf. Like that whole drama. I'm not going to put my 2 cents on it, but she only got a 14-day ban, or a 30-day monetization thing on YouTube. Like, if you and I would have done that, if I would have been like, hey, I'm at Mrs. house, took a selfie. Should I go inside showing the freaking address on 123 Main Street in the middle of nowhere? Like, that's it. No stream for Jimmy.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, there's just so many things that like you put so many eggs in the basket. Like I like doing it as a hobby. I'm happy doing it as a hobby. If it takes off, it takes off, but I'm not going to quit my day job. I prefer my day job, honestly.
Yeah. Like, I mean, if I start making money with it, cool. If not, I'm still a retired stay-at-home dad that makes his family happy. That's all that matters.
Oh yeah.
To me.
Exactly.
And helping friends, I help friends on the side and do a bunch of other side hustles. And it's just one of those things that's like, I'm happy. That's what matters to me. If you're not happy, figure out what's making you not happy. Go from there.
Agreed.
Because like, I feel that's like kind of a weird tie-in, but I feel like that's what's going wrong with a lot of horror cinema today. I mean, in the last couple of years, we've had a lot more misses than we've had hits, but the ones that hit
well. I mean, like I would say in the past 5 years, there's been a lot more movies that stand out to me in recent memory than there has been in the past like 10 years. Like I always still like credit like Black Phone, Oculus, As Above, So Below. I think that's been like 10 years though. But like there's certain horror movies that have stuck with me. Smile stuck with me the past couple of years. Malignant, obviously, I love that movie. Like there's just certain movies that have like hit home more. But like there's like so many that are just like mediocre. That's like everyone likes to talk about the mediocre ones.
As Above, So Below came out in 2014. So yeah, we're right at 10 years. But yeah,
I hate that I know that.
But yeah, I liked As Above, So Below. To me, that one was very psychological.
It's very psychological, but I can also consider it with like the demons. So I almost rope it in with like religious horror personally, because it has to deal with heaven, hell, blah, blah, blah. But I do consider it more psychological because it fucks with your head so much. It's so good though. I really love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
Oh my God. Yeah. Like that. I think my favorite scene was the burning car.
That was a very unique scene. My favorite scene personally, I still think is either the very first kill when they get upside down or when they enter the water and just your entire sound audio cue just goes all muffled. And like the first time we saw that, me and my wife were like, okay, that's the movie. Okay.
Like, is this the hearing test? Do I need to press a button?
Yeah, that's exactly how I felt. Because when it happened, it was just immediately like my entire like vision got distorted for a second. So I was like, whoa, that caught me off guard. I was not expecting audio cue difference right then and there. It was just really good.
Yeah. There is a part in the water scene where some people saw a face right when she's submerged, and there was another part where like they saw the face later on before she resurfaced.
I haven't paid that too much attention, but like there's so many good things about it. Like I do like combining subgenres in ways, but I guess my main one I would always go for is still body horror.
Yeah.
And that's not in this conversation.
Yeah. I mean, body horror plays a part into, I'd say a good like 70%, 60 to 70 of most horror movies.
Well, I mean, if you consider like, depending on how they do certain things to be considered body horror. Yeah. I was also thinking of like, it's usually lumped in though with either a slasher or B, it's in like monster movies. So I always throw it in like Supernatural and so on and so forth. Like I always still use like the prime example as The Thing. Like that's always the one I always go to, that or The Fly. Yeah, the remake of The Fly, 1987 with Jeff Goldblum.
Yeah. Oh my God, I love the fact that was just Jeff Goldblum. He wasn't even acting. That was just Jeff Goldblum. He's just
being his little self. Yeah. No, I love the deterioration of him.
Oh my God, yeah, because
it's just done so well.
You slowly see the descent into him becoming the Fly, and it's not so much like a werewolf flick. It's like, no, it's the first full moon right after I've gotten bit. It was like just
slow burn.
And I enjoyed that aspect of it because like even the slimy parts, I was just like, oh, I love it.
Yeah, especially like when he's like, I love how you see him like become so bad and it's like just a fast decline afterwards, but like that slow like 45-minute burn into the last like 20 minutes just falling out of everything. It's so good.
Yeah. I think the part that like wasn't bad, it just was unsettling for me, was when he pulled out his teeth.
Oh, I love that scene. That's one of my favorite scenes. So fun fact, like when me and my mom saw Prometheus, and after he's infected and he's looking through his whole body and everything, me and my mom were like, that's very like The Fly reminiscent. And then when the other dude that was infected, that was killing everybody. When we saw that spot, we're like, this is very Thing-like. So like we very picked up on that stuff. But that's what made me love it. Is just how, again, real it looks and feels.
Yeah, I would agree, because it was like it wasn't overly CGI'd, and it wasn't underdone on the prosthetics, because like they put in the prosthetics where they needed to, and then they CGI'd where they needed to, and I think it was a very well done combo for Prometheus. Because
I'm also biased because I love Ridley Scott, so
that's fair. Ridley Scott is another one that has done no wrong by me, but then again, you know, Ridley Scott has ties into Alien, Prometheus, some of the Predator movies.
I love a lot of his movies. I haven't seen his entire filmography, but there's a lot of his that I love. But like I said, I'm very biased when it comes to certain directors and or things, just because of like they've done something that touched me. Like again, Alien being one of my favorite films, like Ridley Scott's always going to be one of my favorites.
Mm-hmm.
Glenn Miller being one of my favorite directors because he did the Mad Max films, and I love Fury Road. Oh my god.
I enjoyed Fury Road, even though it wasn't the original Mad Max that we had. It was a different Mad Max to me. It wasn't a reboot. It was a kind of a continuation.
It was a kind of continuation, kind of a reboot kind of thing. But what that's like one of the very few movies I have seen more than once in a theater, because I loved it that much. I needed to see it again and again and again. I love that movie.
I honestly think that Tom Hardy did a great job. Well, I mean, I'm also kind of biased towards Tom Hardy because I think he's just a phenomenal actor.
I've got a friend now.
I think he did great in that role. No, it's a kitty.
Yeah, it's a kitty, not a titty there, Jimmy.
I was like, I know the word. I'm trying to say it. It's cat. He's like, it's a tit. It's a tit. It's a tit. It's a kitty. But yeah, I think he did really well in that role, because Tom Hardy to me is one of the more, I wouldn't say better, but greater method actors, because like look at the shape that he was in between his film Bronson, the one that
Dark Knight Rises, Warrior, and that. Yeah, no, honestly, I know he's bigger in The Dark Knight Rises, like volume and muscular wise, but he just looks so huge in Warrior. I know it's like the camera angles and so on and so forth, but he just looks massive in that movie. It's because he's all detailed.
He did a really, like, he's I didn't know this, but he's big into Brazilian jiu-jitsu or jiu-jitsu. There's a difference. I don't know exactly what the difference is. Please don't crucify me. I know there is a difference, but it's either Brazilian jiu-jitsu or he's a jiu-jitsu. He's either a practitioner of jiu-jitsu or Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and I didn't know that until relatively recently. And for his role from Bronson to Dark Knight Rises to Warrior, he did bulking between Bronson to Dark Knight, and then he did a really strenuous workout regimen to Warrior, so that way he could look more muscular and fit versus muscular and strong, whereas like he wanted to be more muscular and strong for Dark Knight versus Warrior. But I could honestly see him being like a My Bloody Valentine type killer. For anyone that hasn't seen that, it was Jensen Ackles, because he was trauma. It was trauma that made him go crazy, and he turned into the killer of that movie from when the first one, because the first one was the original killer. Second one was it wasn't a remake, it was a continuation, if I remember correctly. And then
I haven't seen that movie since high school.
Same. Like, I remember I went to go watch it on Valentine's Day with, again, someone I was dating, and we went and watched it, and we had a good time. It was, it was great. It was a great movie for, a date night, because that's what it was made for, because it came out on Valentine's Day.
Yeah. No, I also fucking miss, like, that's going back in time real quick. I've missed like being in high school and getting your friends together and go to movies, or just to go hang out and do stupid shit. Like, why do we have to grow up, man, and be responsible adults? It sucks.
Yeah. Like I wish I could go spend $15 at the theater, get a ticket and a large popcorn, and not have to worry about taking out a mortgage.
Yeah. Movie theaters are super expensive nowadays, man. I haven't been in the theaters in a hot minute, but
yeah,
it's gotta be something I really want to watch for me to go to the movies now. Last one I saw was Last Voyage of the Demeter, and it was all right.
It was. I haven't seen it yet. I've been wanting to watch it, but I'm waiting for it to come out streaming.
I wish there was more blood personally, but I also wish like it was faster pacing because there's a lot of like down spots where I'm like,
I get that. What actually caught my eye with that movie was the part where they showed it in the trailer, or they showed it in a trailer, not the trailer, excuse me, was where the guy was climbing up the rigging of the ship to get away from Dracula, and he looks down and he sees him climbing up the rigging after him, and he just looks at him and he freezes, and then Dracula smiles.
yeah,
And then starts coming up the ropes faster. And I was just like, that, like, seeing him smile like that with that set of teeth and it not being CGI'd to death was like, that gave me
unsettling.
chills. Yeah, that gave me chills, but in a good way, because whereas like you're an audiophile, I'm more of a visual person. Like I love, don't get me wrong, I love my audio too. I think that should be a totally different, thing. Like every horror movie, like you said, does need its audio cues and stuff like that, and certain things that when you hear, you're like, oh. But like the visual aspect of it, if it's CGI to death, I'm just like,
No, I agree. I know where you're coming from, Trust me. That's like the complaint I was making with like the prequel to The Thing. I would prefer the animatronics that you see behind the scenes than what we got as the CG.
yeah, I wish they would have kept the friggin' animatronics for that one, because the CGI,
It just ruined the movie. It really did. It didn't feel the same. It was just like hard to take seriously, especially coming from the first one. Like,
yeah,
the prosthetics and the animatronics on that whole movie is fantastic. I can never get bored of watching that movie. I can watch that movie all the time.
I watched the director's cut, and I actually watched the making of for that, because a friend of mine had the Blu-ray version of it, and I like how they did the part where the guy's head elongates on the neck and everything like that, because they had like one person that was controlling the head with like a wire system, and then they had someone that was controlling the legs and the arms and stuff like that with another system, and they had another person that was controlling the body it was coming from with another system, and I was just like,
yeah, that's all fucking just their controls and stuff. They do such a good job with it. Like I said, that's what I love about animatronics. Like you bring something real, like it's fake, but like it's a physical thing that's more scary than a heavily CG thing.
Yeah, I agree. And I feel like the second one was just way too much CGI.
Yeah, it could have been great. I feel like I would have appreciated it more if it had the animatronics, but yeah, no, it's just not good.
No, it was not good. Not at all. Sorry. I just looked over at my second screen, which has all the info up for As Above, So Below on it, and I did not realize it, but the As Above, So Below had a $5 to $10 million budget. I thought
they did a very good job with it. Yeah, I thought so too.
I would like to see how they did I would honestly like to see how they did the set for that, because I don't feel like they were actually in an enclosed space like they tried to make it feel like. I think that
I wouldn't be surprised, but I'm pretty sure they also did do like a lot of modeling and stuff like that, which I would really still like to be. I need to watch the behind the scenes on that. I haven't seen the behind the scenes on that one yet.
Yeah, a lot of the horror movies that I truly love and enjoy, I like to watch the behind the scenes too, because it's just
same. I mean, I just love behind the scenes. Like I said, my brother got me into that stupid shit.
Yeah, another guilty pleasure of mine that's like I love to watch is horror movie bloopers.
Oh yeah, no, bloopers in general are just hilarious. But like, especially like, I feel like the more serious the movie is, or like a horror movie and stuff like that, the funnier they are.
Oh my god, yeah. Like what got me into that was Rob Zombie's Halloween and the bloopers, because they had one scene where like Michael was supposed to go into a house and he couldn't open the door, so he like the actor that's playing Michael like walks over to the window and knocks on the window, and he's like, I was like, okay, that's funny, because like you expecting like those serious movies, everything to just happen flawlessly.
Yeah, but there's always those outtakes and stuff. It's great. I love them.
Oh yeah, I love watching horror movie. Like that should be a genre in and of itself, is horror movie bloopers.
Dude, I would love that. See, honestly, I love bloopers. Just knowing what was supposed to happen and seeing what you get. Like one of my favorite ones is still from chapter 1, which is where Georgie goes to grab the boat and goes, "Go here, Georgie, take it." And he goes, "Thanks." And he just runs away. He's just like, "Oh shit." It's so good. Like it's just stupid shit like that. You're just like, those are the best.
Yeah.
Just have fun with it. That's what I love.
And Bill Skarsgård, the actor that played it, he can like make his eyes go in different directions. And the actor that played, oh god, what's his name? He's a comedian.
Yeah, no, I know what you're talking about. I can't remember his name, but he's the one that played Richie.
Yeah, and he didn't know that he could do that in real life. And he's like, "Hey, how you did that in the first movie, or how they did that with the CGI and stuff like that was really great." And he goes, "Oh, you mean this?" And just goes, and that's one of my favorite stills from the set is because he does it, and the guy's like,
Yeah, he seemed like freaking out. Yeah, I know which one. I love those photos.
I'm gonna find a way to put that up somewhere so that way everyone else can see it too, because like it's just Bill Skarsgård just making a funny face and like doing the eye thing because his eyes go, and then you got the actor, he's like
Horrified. It's so good.
oh my god, yeah, I would love to see more horror movie bloopers, because I feel like a funny one, a really funny one to me would probably be like one of the Conjurings or one of the Insidiouses, to see like a blooper.
I think they might have some. I haven't seen the behind the scenes of the bloopers yet, but I've seen a lot of the behind the scenes for Insidious, like the more serious stuff on how they made it and whatnot. Like I said, that's what makes me love Juan so much. Is just how you see certain things and how he shoots them is so good.
Yeah, like I praise it to this day. But the scene where the lipstick demon was right behind the guy,
one of the best jump scares ever. One of the best jump scares ever.
Because there was no audio cue, there was no warning. There was just, I think something's wrong with our son. What are you talking about? And you're like
yeah, it's just complete out of left field. You're just like, oh my god, I jumped out of my seat.
Dude, I was in the theater when that happened, and there was some person a couple rows in front of me, and I saw popcorn fly. Like, not like god, not like, no, I saw the bit
Thrown.
Like it got yeeted. Like there was some force behind that. Like this dude was trying to fight something at that point in time, and that freaking bucket of popcorn just went whoo, and we're like, oh god.
Yeah.
One of what?
I didn't realize how long we were.
Oh, I didn't either. But one of my favorite comments that I ever saw, I think, was from Tumblr. When that movie came out, someone commented on that scene, and they said, I was scratching my no square when that scene happened. I almost ripped my dangus off. 10 out of 10.
Because it comes out of nowhere. I think like I love jump scares executed correctly like that. It's very good use of it. I hate horror movies that just have to throw jump scares in there just try and get the cheap scares. Like just terrify me in a proper way.
Like I think another good example of that too, honestly, was the first Paranormal Activity. All the other Paranormal Activities after the first one were kind of forced.
Yeah, I was gonna say subtlety is one of my favorite things. Like not putting a face to the thing that's scaring you for the longest time and like making your imagination do so much worse is such an effective thing. And there's a lot of great movies that can do that. And then it gets like some kind of cheap out or whatever. But like when you can do jump scares like that, you have some audio cues, because like I remember really focusing on that in the second and third one, which they're very good sequels. But you hear like a small little like rumble start to pick up before anything happens. Yeah. And then if you're not paying attention to it, it's going to catch you off guard. But when you hear it, you're like, oh, okay, something's about to happen. I noticed that in the like third one, I think, is when I really noticed it. But it's so good seeing that like subtlety and like, again, audio cues kind of giving you a heads up of what's to come. I love it. I love it so much.
I like the subtle, like you said, I like the subtle jump scare that gives you like a slight audio cue, but I enjoy the jump scares that aren't forced, that are subtle, that come without warning even more. Because you get the lipstick demon over the shoulder shots from like James Wan and other big names in the horror industry like that. And I think that in like, I'm surprised it's not a genre, but there should be a jump scare, because there's a jump scare warning on video games. There should be a jump scare genre of horror as well.
I'm sure there's a lot of them that are considered in that way. I mean, there's a lot of like jump scary horror movies out there. That's why I feel like with It Follows did so well in a way, because it was very jump scary.
There were a couple scenes I could see that.
Same with like what Lights Out, I think, was another one.
Yeah, the Babadook.
I think Babadook, the first Ouija board, which really was bad. And I heard the sequel is much better, but I haven't seen it yet. But there's a lot of jump scares like that.
For me, I found the Ouija 1 and 2 to both be just meh.
I haven't seen the second one. I heard the second one's better, but not by much. I don't know. I'll give it a shot at some point.
Yeah, same. But like, I've seen both of them, but not same for Ouija, but for other horror movies. I loved some of the things that it did. I saw what they were going for, but I didn't like Ouija itself as a movie, it was more so a horror tale to me. It wasn't like, oh my God, this is terrifying. It was just like, no, why are you doing that? Why are you stop? No, why are you touching them? Oh my God. Like, that's what it was for me. I don't know how else to expect it, where it was just like I went through all the stages of grief when they would do something dumb. Whereas like comparatively to Oculus, because I watched, they didn't come out around the same time, but I watched them around the same time. I watched Ouija, then I watched Oculus. And like, I was watching Oculus and I was like, no. Like, I was like,
Oculus fucks with you in a good way. And then the jump scares that do happen in that are very, very fun. My favorite scene is still just the apple. Like, I just remember seeing that in the trailer and I was like, I'm sold on this movie. I need to see it.
Yep, I agree, because Oculus was Oculus was one of the ones that I didn't see anything on, so I didn't know what to expect from it. I was just expecting to watch a scary movie that might scare me and everything like that. What caught my eye on it was that I saw the psychological tag and I was just like, ooh, I'm on board. that was it. And now it's one of my favorite, I would say top 5. Yeah, definitely top 5 horror movies today.
My top 5 has like 50 movies in it.
There's anything by John Carpenter, anything by freaking
George A. Romero, fucking James Wan, Sam. Oh, there's so many that are in there.
Freaking anything by Lee Winnell. Like, you're not listing your favorite movies at that point. You're like listing your favorite directors, and you're like, yeah.
Rob Zombie.
Yeah, dude, like, I love Rob Zombie horror movies. Like, I don't even know what got him to direct and write and friggin'.
I don't know, don't care. I got House of a Thousand Corpses. I'm 100% sold. Like, I love that movie. It is such a good movie. Oh my God, I cannot stop praising that movie. I understand a lot of people have more of attachment to like Devil's Rejects or some of his other films.
Yeah,
I still haven't seen 3 from Hell, and I haven't seen House of 31 or 31, whatever the movie that's called. Those are only 2 of his I haven't seen. I love all of his movies. It's just the only one I cannot stand is Lords of Salem. Oh my God, that one so slow.
It was slow, but the part I will defend the scary parts of the movie, because the scary parts of the movie were really well done. But the movie itself, it was a pretty slow burn. But
like, for me, I just found myself doing this movie's only 45 minutes in. I still have another 45 minutes. What the fuck?
Yeah.
That's how it was for me.
A lot of people in the theater did the same thing, but I went and watched it with a group of friends, and whenever it came out, and I barely remember the first half, but I do remember the jump scares.
I liked the end. I like it, but the end does not justify that movie. Like,
fair. That's fair.
House.
I mean, me personally, I'm a huge Rob Zombie fan because he's one of the few celebrities that I've met in my lifetime in person, and he was by far the coolest one I have ever met. Because if he watches this and he makes it to this part of the podcast, Rob, I love you and your wife Sharon. And I love both of you. You guys are freaking fantastic. For those of you that don't know who his wife is, watch his first Halloween movie. She is Michael's mother. That's Sharon Moon Zombie. Love them to death, because I got lost at I got lost from my mom at a concert, birthday 13 down in Florida, and he wasn't supposed to be there. He showed up. He walked on stage with someone, sang a part of the song with him, walked off the stage. And as he was walking off the stage, I said, Rob. And he looked at me and I said, you rock. And he goes, that kid, let him back. Because again, I was 13, or actually I was about to turn 13, because birthday happened before my birthday. So I was 12, but he let me come back, and he's like, hey, he goes, how old are you? I was like, I'm 12. He goes, you know my music? I was like, yeah. I was like, I have one. I was like, I still have one. God, I'm going to date myself. I was like, I still have one of your White Zombie cassette tapes. And he goes, holy shit. Wow. Okay. He goes, yeah, come on. And I still have the shirt. I'd have to break it out of storage, because I refuse to wear the shirt, not because it's like still too big on me, but it's because he gave it to me personally. I have his shirt from his greatest hits album, where he's painted as the zombie looking up like a zombie, and everyone calls it the Zombie Jesus cover, because that's what it looks like. I'll find a way to fit that picture in somewhere so that way I can show what I'm talking about. But he gave me that shirt personally and helped me find my mom. And then fast forward to my 23rd birthday, I went to his concert, not Earth Day Birthday or anything crazy like that, in Virginia. And this is how much of a legend this man is. He is 60. He was 60 something at the time, or pushing 60 something at the time. And he was still touring, still doing music and all that stuff, the Rob Zombie way. And he was singing one of his songs and he disappeared off a stage. Nobody knew where he went. And he just pops up in the back of the crowd and starts running through the crowd, doing laps and stuff. And I ran over to when he was getting ready to go back on stage. And I go, Rob, you, and I don't know if he remembered me, but I had that same shirt with me on that day, and I held it up, and he pointed at me and did this while he was still singing the set. Like, he couldn't respond. He was in the middle of singing the lyrics to either Living Dead Girl or More Human Than Human. And he pointed at me with the mic to his mouth and just went like these and just proceeded to go back on stage. And I was like, he remembered me. I was like, I can die happy now, because he was super chill. His wife was more than nice. Like, she was just a friggin' amazing person. She was like, are you scared? Is your mom somewhere here? I was like, yeah, she's the one who brought me. I'm not scared. Everyone here's been super nice to me. And she goes, and this is what made me fall in love with heavy metal, rock music, everything like that, because like, he legit like sent somebody out on stage and were like, hey, someone like they didn't say it over the loudspeaker, but he said it to like a few people in the crowd, and they're like, hey, we're trying to find this kid's mom. He's backstage with Rob Zombie. And if I called my mom to this day and she's like, hey,
oh my God. Yeah, just lost. He's backstage with Rob Zombie. Fuck it.
I was like, well, you get like in my mind, I was like, you guys want to adopt me? I'll be Jimmy Zombie. I don't give a shit. Like, they were just super nice.
Oh my God.
Dude, that would have been friggin' fantastic. Imagine being Rob Zombie and Sharon Moon Zombie's son. God, what happened to my voice? But yeah, like, they legit just had like a security guy or a stagehand or someone. I don't know who the guy was, but thank you to him. I wish I would have got his name. But he like went and talked to a couple people in the crowd, and then word spread. And like while I was where I was standing at, you could see me. And there was like a little fence, a secondary fence there where there was like a gap, so that way people wouldn't stage dive and stuff. And you could see through the gap to where I was standing talking to Sharon Moon Zombie and Rob Zombie. And my mom just started waving. And I was like, oh, there she is. He goes, oh, look, we found your mom. He goes, come on. Walked me over there. I had my t-shirt and everything. I'm walking, holding on my Rob Zombie t-shirt, happy as could be. And she was like, where'd you go? I was like, Mom, look. And she goes, I wish he had a pen on him. I wish I had a marker on me or something like that, because I'm pretty sure I would have gotten his, he would have autographed that for me. No worries.
Oh yeah.
But, and she was like, what are you doing? Like, the first thought, she told me this later, she was like, my first thought was, what are you doing backstage with this weird man and his wife? And then she realized who it was. And she was like, Rob Zombie found you? I was like, yeah, Rob Zombie found me. Because somehow I managed to get lost in the crowd. And I could not tell you how it happened, but me and my mom got separated, and I didn't end up in the mosh pit, because a lot of people were like, "Oh, hey, buddy, you're too small for this. Go this way."
Yeah, being in the mosh that young would not be fun.
No, because like, I'm only 5'7", and now I weigh 170 pounds. Back then, I was maybe 5 foot even, maybe 110 pounds.
On a wet day.
Yeah, if you put like rocks in my pocket and shit. But yeah, and like, a lot of people there were like, hey buddy, you can't eat, watch out here, let me get you closer to the stage so that way you can hear the music better. And I'm like, okay. And like, go over here, and this guy would tap someone on the shoulder and be like, hey, let this kid through. And he'd be like, oh, okay. Him, hey, let this kid through, all the way up until I was like right there, right next to the stage exit. And I'm just like, this is awesome.
Dude, I wish. I'm so tempted to get back into the pit. But at the same time, I'm like, it's been too long. I'm not ready for it.
Oh, I will warn you, because I've done it. I did it relatively recently, a couple years ago. I went to a Monomarth concert with a very good friend of mine, and I decided, hey, you know what? I haven't moshed in years. I got in the pit and regretted it very next day, because I woke up, my shoulder was stiff, my back was stiff, my knees hurt. Somehow my friggin' ears were hurting, like, not like ringing, but like, it felt like I got punched in both my ears. And me, like the closest contact I got was me and some people just bouncing off each other. It wasn't like friggin' a throwdown.
Even that, I'm too much. It's like too much for me nowadays.
Oh my God, yeah. Like it was fun to relive the glory days, but my body was like, hey,
we can't do this no more.
We're not 20 no more, bro. And I was just like, I pinched something. Ibuprofen. I'm going down. My knees are locking. I just,
oh my God.
But I mean, honestly, if Rob Zombie had a concert somewhere near me and I was able to go, I would. Because
he puts on a hell of a show. It is so good.
God, yeah. And it's changed so much because originally when we were coming up in the scene of heavy metal and stuff like that, like they would have pyrotechnics, they would have to have like some crazy gimmick like Gwar, like their costumes, or like Rob Zombie with his posters or his that he would change out in between sets. But now what he did at the concert that I went to back when I was 23, 10 years ago, God, that hurts to say, he had screens and stuff like that showed the main screen had snippets from old school movies. So like Living Dead Girl was like the Wolfman, Dragulair was Frankenstein's monster, Frankenstein's monster, and More Human Than Human was actually like the music video and stuff like that. And like all the screens were showing like different monsters' faces and stuff. It was amazing.
Well, he does do still 50-50. Like there are times it'll be just like snippets from his like music videos and stuff like that in his movies, or it'll be like just some weird ass pyrotechnics at times. It's just great. I love that man. He's so good.
Because I'm gonna Google how old he is, because I don't know how old he actually is. I know he was born in the 50s.
I think it was like 60s. I could be wrong.
Age. He is 58. He was born 1965. So
65. Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, he like at 58. Or I'm sorry, not Sharon Moon, Sherry Moon. I always say Sharon Moon, but yeah, Sherry Moon Zombie. That is her name. Like Rob Zombie, he still tours with, I think, the same bassist, guitarist, and drummer, along with keyboard, that he has since White Zombie.
Yeah, no, it's amazing. Oh, I love that man so much.
he's an amazing human being. Like I wouldn't be surprised if he toured one last time before he like turned like 70. But
I'm sure he'll go for as long as he wants, and I'm pretty sure he'll push past 70. He'll be like Ozzy. He'll go into like his 80s.
Sherry.
Yeah, exactly.
But what really makes me like his music is not the songs themselves, but how he sings them, because he has a very unique voice.
I love his voice. Yeah, you don't hear voices like his,
because it's like he could, because I think he did Living Dead Girl for House of a Thousand Corpses, if I'm not mistaken.
No, he did House of a Thousand Corpses for House of a Thousand Corpses, and then he also did because he had it on Educated Horses for Devil's Rejects before he actually released the film, and that's where he got like the preview into it, which was still really, really good.
Yeah, I know he did. I don't remember exactly how, but I know he had a hand in Idle Hands somehow.
Oh, did he?
Some way, shape, or form.
I fucking love that movie, dude. That was so stupid.
I can't remember exactly how, but I do remember this was the rumor mill back in the day. Like first thing I do is type in idle hands. I don't remember exactly how he had a role. He had some form of it in that movie. I know they played his Dragulair music video in the movie, but he also had something else in there too. I think he had an ending title song or something like that.
That's fucking amazing. I love. He's in like so many like random projects too. Like I said, it's just like funny how many things he has done. And like, again, you only usually think of him as an artist, not really as a director or anything like that. And then he's got so many like ties into so many things.
Yeah. He's got music videos that are played in horror movies. He's got friggin' directorial writing, friggin' acting. He's got some cameos, I do believe, like personal cameos where he showed up. And I forgot Jessica Alba was in there. I really did. I forgot Jessica Alba.
I always get her. Jessica Alba and Jessica Biel, I think, are like the two I always get confused from who the fuck is who. I know they're very different, but their names are so close together. I'm just like, fuck, I don't know.
Jessica Biel was in the horror version of the Snowman movie.
Jack Frost,
thank you. Because I remember as a kid, we got the Jack Frosts mixed up because you had the horror movie and you had the
with Michael Keaton.
Yeah. And I wanted to see the Michael Keaton one. We got the other one. And I was like, I popped it in, started watching. I think somebody swapped the VHSs because they both just said Jack Frost on the VHS.
Well, back in the day, you could do that. Remember that before DVDs, it was like all the VHSs were inside that box, so they could just pop. Because I remember horror stories of people buying like or renting kid-friendly movies, Spy Kids, or like some Dora, Blue's Clues, or some bullshit, and get a horror movie in there.
Yeah,
you don't really check it.
Yeah, and what was even funnier was that the person that did it was someone that worked there. Like they swapped a lot of the VHS. They either mixed up the VHSs or they swapped the VHSs on purpose. I'm willing to bet they swapped them on purpose.
That's insane.
And yeah, we went to. I got home, I popped it in the VHS, got ready to watch it and everything like that. And it got to the shower scene with Jessica Biel. And I was like, Papa? And he goes, what? I was like, I don't think this is the right movie. Mind you, this was like 30 minutes into it. And he comes in, he goes, huh? And he goes, son of a bitch. And like walks over, pops it out of the VHS, and we run back to Blockbuster. Needless to say, we got a coupon and a free movie rental.
Yeah. Yeah.
It was those kind of times back then, because it was where like people were like, I'm so sorry, this never happens, and when it happened all the time.
Yeah, all the time, unfortunately. I remember those times, chaotic times. Oh
yeah, like that was so funny, because like you'd have like someone who rented The Sixth Sense, and then also someone who rented like the Swan Princess, and then they would just, because back then they would scan the barcode on the movie, put the movie back on the shelf, not think about it, wait for someone to come up, check out that movie, scan the barcode again, and bam, they had a horror movie instead of the Swan Princess. Oh my God, I'm happy and I'm sad at the same time that that's not the case today, because oh my God, I would love to mess with some kids about that.
Well, shit, fucking, there's so much funny things that we can go on right now.
Oh my God.
I didn't realize what time it was. I unfortunately got to work tomorrow.
Yeah. So I think we actually got to a good stopping point. And to let everyone know, Miz and I will be me and Miz will be getting back into the swings of everything here soon. This is the premiere episode of season 2 and all that fun stuff. And when we have a more finite schedule figured out, we'll be coming back strong. We'll be coming back with episodes. Oh yeah. Like probably just about as frequently as we did, if not more, depending on, Miz, of course. Cause anytime works for me. I can make any time work for me. Well, now that we're in the same time zone, it's going to make things much easier. Oh yeah. Cause Miz has moved. It was a big move. And now he's getting settled in. Yeah. Getting there, and we'll be back to normal. Yep. So wish him the best of luck at his first official day of work tomorrow. On Friday. I got to go to school tomorrow. You got to go to school. I got to go to school. The cat jumping on me. The cat's like, hiya. I need the attention. From myself, thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. Thank you for hanging out with us. And we will see you next time. Next time, guys, we'll see you. We'll have another subject. Have fun. Of course. And feel free to suggest subjects to us as well, because me and Miz share one brain, so we can only circulate the same thought so many times. Yeah, before we're like, okay, we need some help. Help. Bye. Bye.